Deja vu can sometimes be a good thing. Something works, so you don't mind when it repeats itself. That's kind of what you get with the HTC One M8. It enhances some great points about its predecessor, and sadly doesn't change a few of the weak points that we saw before. I'm Andrew with mobileburn.com, here to see if this is a case of deja vu that's worth your time. It's metal, it's big, and it's as pretty as ever. The HTC One M8, which I'll refer to as the M8 from here on out, is a worthy successor to the One name. The body is composed of aluminum that feels cool but can occasionally run hot, and is slightly curvier than last year's model. The curves make it feel very nice when it's in your palm, and though the edges are a little rounder than they are flat like we saw with last year, it's still very easy to hold firmly and securely in your hand. On the right side is a volume control button, a 128GB micro SD slot, and on the left side is a nano SIM slot. The bottom you have your headphone jack and a micro USB port. And the top of the phone is pretty interesting because besides having a sleek black surface that makes it look like some type of futuristic robot, it also serves as a IR blaster that controls your television. I've been using the M8 this way as my remote for the past week, and I absolutely love it. The signal always reaches my TV and my cable box. It's idiot proof, and there's even a new TV app that finds recommendations based on my interests and what's on TV at the moment. A live sports component lets me know the stats and the scores from all the games going on. So this is a better program guide and remote control on a smartphone than I've seen previously. My second favorite thing about the M8 is the pair of front-facing speakers. Well, actually, my second favorite thing is the 2GB of RAM and the quad-core processor that powers this phone, and it is fantastic. Now, we all know that benchmarks aren't reliable, especially when companies openly cheat it, but in the real-world test, when you see this phone moving, you know that it's moving at a very fast pace. So the Snapdragon 801 processor does a fantastic job for pretty much everything it does. Now, back to those speakers. Well, I guess they're my third favorite thing now. It has boom sound, which is louder than ever, but still clear and crisp for vocals and music. It's great for speakerphone conversations and listening to music when you're in private. You know, don't listen to it in public because no one else wants to hear your fabulous music collection. But when you're in your room or your office and you don't have your headphones handy and you want to be untethered, it's great to have that type of volume and sound quality. Now, on the front, right above those speakers, you have a front-facing camera that's unlike any that you've seen before, because not only does it do pretty well with BSI, it also has a 5-megapixel lens. So you're going to get a detailed and big photo if you take an image in a well-lit area. Here's a sample of it right now, and it was actually pretty good compared to what I've seen from some other front-facing devices. The rear cameras are a little bit harder to talk about because they're cameras, as in plural. There's two of them. HTC crafted a dual camera system. This basically supports focusing and defocusing through some editing tricks. I can take a picture of someone and then have the background blurred to focus more on the subject, or I can do the opposite. It also has filters and some fake 3D effects that you'll probably never use because they only really make sense when you're viewing it on the phone. Now, HTC has plenty of camera gimmicks included on the phone, but what people are really going to care about is how well the camera does when you're taking regular photos. In this regard, it's hit or miss. Often the M8 takes beautiful, sharp, clear photos. You know, it's on par with all the leading devices. But at other times, it does a terrible job of regulating light. It lets way too much in, and originally that was by design to help it in low light situations, but when you're not in a low light situation, a lot of times the images can be overexposed, or if there's a light source from like a window to the side or a light coming down on you, it might the camera might overexpose, so you're going to have to make manual adjustments a lot of times. On the bright side, when you're taking low light photos, it has a two-tone flash that is very good. I was really impressed because I took some photos in a pub one night and it wasn't that great, but when I turned the flash on, I took photos of my friends. They have contrasting skin tones and they both came out looking very cool without any tints or strange hues to the photo, because a lot of times when you have an LED flash, you can get like a weird blue tint from the photo, but that doesn't happen with the two-tone flash on the HTC M8. The downside is that as while you can get some good photos here, a lot of times they're going to be smaller. So it's a 4 megapixel shot. That's perfect if you're just sharing on Facebook or online, but if you're trying to store memories that you're going to look at in the future when you're on your 4K display, that's going to look a little small. So it would have been nicer if it was a bigger camera, but sadly that's not to be. As for the screen, when you look at your photos or pretty much anything else there, it's going to be gorgeous. It's a 5-inch display with 1080p HD. You can't really have a problem with the resolution, the clarity, or the color accuracy of this Super LCD 3 screen. It looks amazing. The only negative that I could come up with when it comes to display quality is that the bezel around it is so big. I love that HTC migrated to virtual buttons for navigating, but the frame around the screen is still really large, and that HTC logo at the bottom just highlights that. Now, I know HTC has explained that this was done by design because they had some circuitry below the surface that they had to put there, but at the same time, it's kind of distracting. But on the plus side, the quality of the screen itself, the part that you actually look at all the time, it's very eye appealing and eye pleasing, so I can't really complain too much. It's just a minor annoyance. The software is where you'll really see that HTC tried to step its game up. The M8 introduces lots of new things like motion gestures. For instance, if I swipe down from the top to the bottom, it'll bring up voice calling. If I swipe right, I'll go to blink feed, and if I swipe up or double tap, it'll wake up the phone from the lock screen. Now, putting the phone up to your ear will answer an incoming call, and pressing the volume button while you have the phone in landscape and the screen is off, that'll jump directly into the camera app for you. Now, these are all things that we've seen on other smartphone manufacturers before, LG and Samsung, but what really matters is that HTC implemented those features here, and they did it well, and so I can't really complain. It's nice to have them, even though a lot of people might not choose to use the motion gestures. I was really particularly happy about how easy it was to jump in and out of the camera app. Aside from that, the software has also got a major update in Sense 6. This is Android 4.4 KitKat based, but the real important details that you'll pay attention to are the changes they've made to Sense. For instance, if you go into settings and choose personalized, it's now possible to switch between themes. That will change not only the wallpaper, but also the accent colors in the menu and the Sense apps like Mail or Calendar. You know, this is an improvement on Sense overall. If you've used previous versions, you know that it was very busy, a lot of flash and bezels, and they've kind of followed the trend of being a clean, flat design, and it's a lot more organized than it has been in the past. It really gives the UI a uniform look that better meshes with the other aspects of Android from Google. And it looks far less cluttered. When you go into Blink Feed especially, if you saw Blink Feed on an M7 and you see how it looks in Sense 6, which is more spread out, it's a little more organized, more of a grid format, you're going to be very impressed with how they managed to change things. And they've also made it possible to add more social media sources, more news sources, and that's going to expand later this year as well. Personally, I prefer to just go into different apps for my social media or news, but if you're someone who likes aggregation and likes putting everything in one place, well, obviously this is going to be something that you're going to use. Another feature that I particularly like about Sense 6 is the car mode, and that kind of strips the UI down to the most important features. Your music, your dialer, navigation, and voice commands. When you tap on the screen with 3 fingers, it brings up voice commands so you can tell it to call someone, text someone, or even choose a song to play. Some of the software on the phone is less useful, particularly the bloatware. Now, this will vary by carrier, but on the Verizon version which I tested, there's a crap ton of crapware. But between the preloaded Amazon apps and the Verizon specific carrier apps, there are 23 apps that can be considered bloatware, and you can't delete any of them. The best you can do is go into the app manager from settings and then disable any of the Verizon apps that you don't think you're going to use or need. And that was kind of one of the things that kind of brought me down. I hate the way that they kind of intruded on the Android experience. I like that Sense 6 adds things, but I hated that Verizon added things that you're probably going to get in the way of what you were trying to do. So at the end of the day, I try to put that out of my mind and just focus on what's great and what's bad about the M8. I asked myself two simple questions. Is this a great phone? And if so, is it better than what else is out there? The first question is an obvious yes. This is a great phone. The M8 is powerful, it's stylish, and this could be the kind of phone that puts HTC back on track after the rough time that they've had recently. But I can't say that everyone will think it's the best phone out there because it's average in some areas. The 2600 milliamp battery life is good. I was able to get 10 to 14 hours a day depending on what I did, but it could definitely be better with some improvements. And sadly, the extreme power saver that is really extending battery life in Europe isn't coming to the US until later this year. I don't even have regular power saver on this Verizon model that I have at the moment. I don't know why Verizon chose to not include it, but for whatever reason, it's not there. I've spoken to people with AT&T and T-Mobile models, and they say that power saver does extend your battery life a little bit. So that's going to be something to look forward to if you're on the Verizon. The overall package of the M8 is simply phenomenal, but it's not flawless. And you want the perfect phone, or you want it to get at least as close to perfect as you can. But this one doesn't do that. The M8 doesn't do that. It has its problems. Overall, I think if you want a phone that feels like an amazing product every time that you pick it up, has a great screen, and you can live with the smaller photos and a power button that's placed a little bit too high. I love that IR blaster, but I hate that the power button is right there. The HTC One M8 will offer that feeling to you. It'll offer you that, man, this phone is amazing feeling every day. It's my favorite Android phone at the moment, at the time this video is recorded. But again, we all know that when it comes to Android, there's always another phone right around the corner looking to take that spot. And there's actually one big one in particular that's launching in a couple of weeks that just might be able to take that spot. At the moment, HTC One M8 is the phone that I would pick for most people. My name is Andrew with mobileburn.com, and this has been my HTC One M8 review. Be sure to click the link in the description below so you can see some full-size photos, some camera samples, some video samples, as well as read my written thoughts about more what I thought about the M8, what makes it great, and what could make it better. Until next time, thanks for watching.